Hello, it's Claudio, and in this tutorial we will create the Hangman game in Python. We will follow a step-by-step process and gradually build it. Let's start working on our Hangman game by creating a Python function that returns a random word for our user to guess. Import the random module and define a list of strings that contains 5 words. Let's add a function called selectWord that randomly selects one word from the list using the function random.choice. The random.choice function returns a random element from a sequence. Call the function and test the Python program several times to make sure you get back random words. For our game, we will need the following variables. Remaining underscore attempts. This is an integer that represents the number of remaining attempts to guess the secret word. This value will be initially set to 6, that equals to head plus body plus arms plus legs. And the other variable is guessed underscore letters. This is a string that contains all the letters guessed by the user that are in the secret word. Somehow, we also have to print the different stages of the hangman depending on how many mistakes the user makes. In other words, the stage of the hangman we will print will depend on the value of the remaining underscore attempts variable. We will create a list of strings in which every element represents a stage of the hangman. For a string to represent the hangman, we will use multi-line strings. Create a separate file called hangman underscore stage.py, where we define a function that returns one of the multi-line strings in the list, depending on the value of the variable remaining underscore attempts. So depending on the number of attempts remaining for the user, we print a different stage of the hangman. Here you can see the content of the file hangman underscore stages.py. Now it's time to write the code to ask our user to guess a letter. Firstly, we have to print a sequence of underscores where the number of underscores is the number of letters in the word to guess. We have defined a function called printSecretWord that prints a sequence of underscores separated by space where the number of underscores is equal to the number of letters in the secret word. Then we have passed the secret word variable to the function printSecretWord. The secret word variable comes from the selectWord function we have defined previously. Notice that instead of writing our code one line after another, we are already splitting it in functions. Splitting the code in functions makes it a lot more readable. Below you can see the output of our code. So now we are printing the underscores that replace the letters of the word we have to guess. We also want to print the initial hangman stage. We have to import hangman underscore stages and call the function getHangmanStage from the file hangman_stages.py. Cool, now we can see the word to guess and the stage of the hangman. The next step of our program is to ask our user to guess a letter. In the logic of the program, we will make sure the user can only provide a single letter, no multiple letters, no numbers or other characters. Let's create a function called guessLetter that does the following. Ask the user to guess a letter using the Python input function. Verify that the input is a single letter using an if statement. And finally convert the letter to lowercase before returning it to the function caller. We will work only with lowercase letters to make any comparisons in the program easier. Let's have a look at the function guess_letter. You can see that this function uses the sys module, so remember to import it at the top of your Python file. To verify that the user has provided a single character, we use the function len. And we use the string isAlpha method to make sure that the string returned by the input function is alphabetic. As part of this tutorial, I also want to show you the thought process to go through when you write your code. While writing this code, I decided to convert this function into a function that takes two arguments: the letter guessed by the user and the secret word. This function will tell if a letter guessed by the user is part of the secret word. Let's make two changes to our function. First of all, take out the line that calls the input function to get the guess from the user. And rename the function from guess_letter to isGuess in secret word. This function will return a boolean. Let's have a look at how the function becomes, and also how we can call this function in our main code. At this point, we can use the boolean variable guess in secret word to update the hangman output we show to our user. It's time to add the logic to handle a correct or incorrect guess from the user. If the guess is correct, we add the guessed letter, that is inside the guess variable, to the string guessed underscore letters. Alternatively, if the guess is incorrect, we decrease the value of the variable remaining underscore attempts. Remember that this variable is then used to print the correct Hangman stage. In both cases, we use the print function to print a success or failure message for our user. As you can see, in both print statements, we are using the string format method. Let's execute the code and see what happens in both scenarios. Scenario 1, if a letter we guess doesn't belong to the secret word. And scenario 2, if a letter we guess belongs to the secret word. So let's see what happens if the guessed letter doesn't belong to the secret word. As you can see, the Hangman drawing gets updated successfully. And now let's see what happens if the guessed letter belongs to the secret word. The Hangman drawing is correct, but as you can see, the guessed letter doesn't get added to the string with underscores that we show to our user. And the reason behind this is that we haven't updated the function print secret word. Let's do it now. To show our users the letters that have been guessed correctly, we have to update the function print secret word. Let's also pass the variable guessed letters to it and replace any underscores with the letters that have been guessed by the user. We will use a for loop that goes through each letter of the secret word. If a letter has been guessed, we print that letter. If a letter has not been guessed, we print an underscore. Let's have a look at how the function looks like. We have passed the end parameter to the print function to print each character on the same line. In other words, we are telling the print function not to print the new line character. Remember also to update the call to the function print secret word and pass the additional parameter guessed underscore letters. Let's test this code by testing a scenario in which the user guesses the correct letter. This time it's working. We have now written the code to ask the user to guess one letter, and we can repeat this code over and over using a while loop. Two things can happen at this point. The user wins by guessing the word within the maximum number of attempts allowed, or the user doesn't guess the word within the maximum number of attempts allowed and loses. We will express this in the condition of the main while loop that has to be added before we ask the user to guess a letter. Let's have a look at the condition of the while loop. The condition after the end operator checks that the length of the string guessed underscore letters is less than the number of unique letters in the word the user is trying to guess. In other words, we are checking if the user has guessed all the letters or not. Let's have a look at how the function getUniqueLetters looks like. We are converting the secret word into a set first, and then we use the string join method to create a string of unique letters. Let's test this in the Python shell first to make sure it works. Converting the secret word string into a Python set removes duplicates. Then the string join method returns a string that only contains unique letters part of the secret word. The previous code we have written to guess one letter becomes the body of the while loop. Also notice that we added two extra print statements in the last 4 lines to show number of attempts remaining and number of letters guessed. We are doing this in order to improve the experience of the user while playing the game. We are almost done. Let's play the game and confirm if it works the way we expect. Here is the output of a successful game. It looks okay, except for the fact that we are not printing a message when the user wins a game. And the same applies to the scenario in which the user loses the game. So let's complete our code by adding two print statements to handle a user winning or user losing the game. The print statements will be outside of the while loop, considering that in both scenarios, winning or losing, we exit from the loop first. Let's add an if statement after the while loop to verify if the user has won or lost, and based on that, let's print the correct message. A user has won if the length of the string guessed_letters is the same as the string that contains unique letters in the secret word. In other words, this means that the user has guessed all the letters. Otherwise, the user has lost because it means not all the letters have been guessed. Let's confirm that the print statement works fine in both scenarios. First of all, let's see what happens if the user wins. And then if the user loses. It's all working. Well done! You've now finished creating the Hangman game in Python. There are additional checks you could add to the game, but the code we went through should give you a good enough idea on how to create this type of game in Python. Give a like to this video if you found it useful or if you learned something. And also subscribe to this channel to become a better and better Python developer. Happy coding and see you in the next video.